Hey guys, so today I'm going to take you through a very quick tutorial of how to make an amazing seafood soup. As you can see, I have a really huge soup pot here that was passed down to me from my grandmother. And in the bottom of this pot, I have some olive oil with onions and celery. So there's some white onions, some red onions, and some celery just chopped. What we want to do is we want to get a nice sweat on these veggies. You don't want them to caramelize. And what I mean by caramelize is you don't want them to get real color on them. Once your onions begin to caramelize, they'll get sweet, and the sugars out of the onions will come out, and we really don't want to sweeten up the pot that way. The seafood is sweet enough. So we're gonna let these onions and celery sweat out and get a little softer, and then we'll go on to the next. Now, usually when I'm making a seafood soup or any kind of soup, I like to start off with a really amazing stock. However, everybody usually don't have that kind of time to make their own stock, and I'm not really a big fan of buying boxed or canned stocks. So I wanted to just show you a way of how to flavor up your seafood soup without actually having to have a stock. And we are going to use some flat fillets of anchovies. Most people say anchovies, ew, that's really nasty, it's really fishy. Well, we're making a seafood soup. And the flavors of the anchovies, once they begin to melt down, it's just going to, be used really as a back flavor of seasoning. So I'm going to add a few fillets of these anchovies, maybe about 5, and let them melt down. And I'll be back to show you what it looks like. So also to the anchovies, I went ahead and added some roughly chopped garlic. I didn't go as far as to finely chopping it because this is a soup and it's going to cook for a while. And, once garlic gets softer, it'll begin to break down. So you don't have to take the time to finely chop your garlic, but you do want to chop it up a bit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give this a good stir and begin to let those anchovies melt down. And it's also one of the reasons why I have not added any, see that smoke? I haven't added any salt to this as yet, because once these anchovies melt down, it's going to give the vegetables a nice salty taste. Okay? I'm going to let that go for a bit. Okay, so now you can see I went ahead and I added a couple of fresh bay leaves. I do like to use a lot of organic fresh herbs. So I added some fresh bay leaves. I have some chives in there as well as some oregano. I'm going to add some thyme and some fresh parsley. But I just want to show you, I'm going to just incorporate all of these fresh herbs. And I'll be right back. Tomato paste. I keep tomato paste on hand for a lot of soups and stocks and when I make certain pastas. But we're going to add a couple of tablespoons of tomato paste in here because this is a red-based sauce. And that tomato paste is going to give it a nice, rich flavor. Okay, so once I've added my tomato paste, I went ahead and added a large can of diced tomatoes and 2 large cans of crushed tomatoes. So, I'm sorry. So it's actually 1 can of crushed tomatoes and 2 cans of diced tomatoes. So here's the second can of diced tomatoes going in. Okay. And I also want to go ahead and add, let's see. I want to add some crushed red pepper flakes to this. Okay. All right. And off camera, I went ahead and just added some coarse salt to it, some sea salt, I'm sorry, to my tomato base, and I'm gonna let that just simmer all together. And this is the beginning of an amazing stock for this particular soup, seafood soup. So I'll be back in just a second. Let me gather some more ingredients and we'll go from there. Now I do want to make mention that I am making a very huge pot. So if you are looking to just make a smaller amount of soup, of course you would reduce these ingredients. And what I wanted to do, because I needed to build up some more of that seafoody sort of stockish flavor, is I went ahead and I added some white clam sauce with garlic and herb. It's just building flavors. And that's what soup is, and that's what cooking is, period. It's just building flavors. You want to build flavor on top of flavor on top of flavor. You don't want to rush it. You want to take your time. You want to taste as you go. You want to, you know, not over salt things, because you can't take away salt, but you can add more if you need it. So, you know, just take your time with the soup. Have fun with it. You know, play around with the flavors a little bit. If you like it spicier, you know, add more crushed red pepper. I'm not a spicy person, but I do like the sort of like kick the crushed red pepper gives, so I put just a little bit. But if you're, you know, if your taste buds enjoy spice, then you go ahead and you add much more crushed red pepper. If you want to add different kind of peppers, you know, in your soup base, you know, that's what you do. If you want to add bell peppers, you know, you play around with it. Have fun with your food. I don't believe in, you know, recipes that you just have to stick to the actual, you know, what that recipe says, because everybody's taste buds are different. You know, you may not like it a certain way, but I like it that way. So you readjust and adjust and add to and take away from, so that it will, you know, be pleasing to your palate. So I added 24 cups of water. And yes, 24 cups again, because I am making this huge, huge pot of soup. Okay. But you just want to add just enough water that's going to actually cook your seafood. And I have a lot of seafood to cook, so I needed to have enough water for the seafood to actually cook in. And what I'm going to start with is I'm going to start with adding my seasoned seasoned red snapper. It's going to go in. Seasoned. Building flavors. Building flavors. Building flavors. Okay. Now I actually had some seasoned salmon, and I had to stick it back in the freezer because I didn't have refrigerator space, so it's sort of stuck together. But we're gonna go ahead and add our seasoned salmon. Now I'm gonna let the salmon and the red snapper cook in this nice broth. And maybe when it's halfway done, I'll go ahead and I'm gonna add our delicious snow crab legs. We have some shrimps as well as some mussels to be added to this. So again, can't rush it. You know, want to take your time and just let it, you know, let it do what it do. Let it do what it do. Okay, I just went ahead and added 2 pounds of snow crab legs, as you can see. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful snow crab legs. And wait, I also added a crab boil in a bag seasoning. So this also has some herbs. It has some spices. So it's also going to give our soup nice seafoody flavor. Okay. Now, I'm going to get my corn ready because I'm going to add corn to this and I'm going to add some potatoes. You see how that fish is starting to break up? Okay. Put these really cute potatoes in here and some carrots. That fish is breaking up really nice. Now I'm going to go ahead and add some frozen mussels that have already been cleaned. And it's just 1/2 of the shell. And I'm going to add 2 pounds of these amazing tiger shrimp. And we're pretty much almost there. Thank you so much for watching my first video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Be a part of my very beginning because I'm telling you, there's a lot more where this came from. Let's cook.